Hello, welcome back to into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, this will take us into the second half of August. We'll go to around the 16th of the month with this particular update. It looks like we're going to be seeing quite a bit of settled weather actually coming up through the coming week, particularly next week. As has always been the case, so it's not going to be an entirely straightforward pattern. There will be complications along the way. I mean, it'll still be the same idea, probably, that the south will get the driest weather and the north will get some unsettled weather at times, but probably less unsettled than it has been through this. So you see what I mean? It's a job to describe the patterns coming up, as it's been a job to really talk about the patterns throughout the summer. It's been a very unusual, very strange summer. It looks like it's going to continue through until next week anyway, and probably take us into the end of the summer, to be honest, because we're getting into late summer now. So we'll have a look at the charts in a moment. It'll all become quite obvious what's going on. But before I get on with that, I just want to quickly say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages at gaslights.com. Have a browse with widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through your article and read the article. And thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages. They open out within the content and then they'll close back up again. So thanks very much for getting involved and helping to pay for gasweatherleads.com. So I just want to start with this from the weatheroutlook.com. As you know, we use the charts from the Weather Outlook quite regularly for our videos, particularly the 5-day and 7-day forecasts on a Wednesday and a Saturday. They are just in the process of bringing through some high definition charts. They look absolutely visually stunning. So I just want to very quickly start off with these. These are the temperature contour maps in high definition from the GFS model. This is from the midnight run. This is just updating at the moment to 6 o'clock run, but the charts are still there for the midnight run. And it turns very hot right at the very end of the midnight run of the GFS. So I'll just show you this very quickly. This is for England and Wales. If you want to see the north, there's a separate link that you can click that will show you the temperature contour charts for the north. This is England and Wales, as I say, and we're starting here at Monday the 17th of August, so we're going up towards 384 hours away. If you don't like hot weather, don't worry. This was a clear outlier from the GFS model. It's very unlikely to come up, but I just thought I'd show you because it's very dramatic and just highlights how beautiful the high definition charts are. So here we are on Tuesday the 18th. See, the heat is starting to build in the south. Notice the lovely contrast between the red colours there with heat building in the south and these cooler colours up into the north. I've never seen a temperature chart sort of shown like this, that you can see the different temperature gradients in such detail as this. So do go to the Weather Outlook and have a look at these charts when you can. We move through these charts and we go up in towards the 20th of August. Look how the heat is really building then, going up into the 30s Celsius quite widely, and it just goes on. We end up, by the time we go through to Friday the 21st of August, we're in those deep red colours. Temperatures there of around 35 Celsius being indicated by the GFS model. We're going up into the 90s Fahrenheit quite clearly. So very much at the extended range of the GFS, and not to be relied upon, but you can see how the gradients are shown in such wonderful detail there in terms of those high definition charts. There's lots of other things you can look at as well. For instance, you can see the precipitation totals with this also. So do check those charts out. I might start off on a bit of a tangent, but I thought I'd throw them in because they do look visually stunning. So let's get on with the 8 to 10 day using update, and we start off with the 500 millibar high noise. Got GFS on the right screen, and the ECM is over on the left of screen as you're looking at it. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet area in the atmosphere with high pressure, low pressure being moved around by jet stream running above. Both of them have this ridge of high pressure sitting up to the northeast here, up over Scandinavia. So signs of ridging coming in Scandinavia. We've had a very poor summer with a lot of troughiness over Scandinavia this summer, but signs of a bit of a change for them, with high pressure coming along, no doubt turning it a good deal drier and warmer. Complicating factor for us is that we've still got this deep trough in the Atlantic, as we've had all summer with the jet stream running around the trough rather like that. So it turns pretty unsettled to the north and west, or I should say probably it stays pretty unsettled to the north and west, seeing as it's never really settled down in the north and west this summer. So unsettled in the north and west, but driest conditions probably over to the east, close to this ridge of high pressure. Now, between the ridge and the trough, we could at times be bringing up warmer air from the south, so that explains why the GFS this morning, the midnight run of the GFS, brought in those very hot temperatures in its extended range. With the ridge to the northeast, the low out to the west, we can suck up hotter air from the south. Potentially, and I only say potentially because it really does depend how the ridge and the trough sort of interact with one another as to whether we can actually bring up hotter temperatures from the south, but potentially it is a possibility. Now, just to highlight how much of an outlier that GFS run was, you can see this green line here going off on a tangent away from all other members of the GFS ensemble. So that just shows you really how much of an outlier it was. The red line here, the thick red line, is the 30-year temperature average with the GFS temperature ensemble. So you can see again very clearly that the very hot end to the midnight run of the GFS, well, that I was just showing you from the weather outlook, was a clear and very marked outlier. Nevertheless, there may be a little bit of a warming trend in the extended range, but overall it doesn't actually look like the temperatures for the next week to 10 days are going to be deviating that far from the average, to be honest. Maybe a little bit on the warmer side, so I wouldn't expect anything too cool coming up, but certainly no great deviation going on there. And then we do get one or two other members of the ensemble sort of breaking away from the red line and going hotter into the middle part of the month. Now, we've got a lot of dry weather coming up, as we can see with the precipitation spikes here in the first part of the ensemble. So you're going to around the 11th, 12th, plenty of dry weather. Then the precipitation spikes are coming back a little bit, actually, this morning. That does look relatively unsettled as we're running up to the middle part of August. So I was hoping we would get a prolonged spell of sort of settled weather next week. We're expecting we get a prolonged spell of settled weather next week. May well start off like that, but later on we may get a little bit of a deterioration, particularly in the second half of next week. But wouldn't necessarily be too sure of that, because this is for London. It's down in the southeast, and that's where we're likely to get the driest conditions at any rate. The temperature anomaly through the coming week, going from the 6th to 14th of August, actually, you may be surprisingly coming out ever so slightly cooler than average. I would think that's going to be nearer normal, and for some southern parts it could actually be a little bit warmer than average. Notice how hot it is, though, across central parts of Europe. A real baking heat wave coming up for many parts of Europe through the course of this week. The precipitation anomaly is looking like this, near normal to dry and average through many parts of the country. Interestingly, it's placing slightly wetter than average precipitation anomalies over to the southeastern side of the country. Not sure why that's happening. Maybe there's a thundery interlude at some point that's depositing quite a bit of rain on the southeast. But overall, many parts of the country for the 6th to the 14th of August coming out around or a little bit drier than average. It's a complicated pattern, this though. So here we are for Monday with the GFS, and this is the 6 o'clock run. We're starting off with, it'll change over to the midnight run later on. We start off next week with low pressure to the north of Scotland, a ridge through the south. So most unsettled conditions in the north, fairly dry probably down in the south. A ridge builds through the country into the middle part of next week, so I think that's quite straightforward. Up to around Wednesday, a lot of dry weather, and probably turning increasingly warm with temperatures going up to the mid-20s Celsius. That ridge hangs around into Thursday, a lot of dry weather. This little feature just here is interesting, developing across the Low Countries and Germany. This probably explains the precipitation anomaly, why it's a bit wetter in the southeast. That could be thundery, and it's probably sometime around Thursday threatening thunderstorms into the southeast. That's a long way off, and it's only a very little feature. So I think generally we are going to have quite a lot of dry weather next week, and this low pressure or little trough may well be removed from later runs of the GFS actually. But generally, as we go through to the second half of next week, things do start to turn more unsettled. So here we are running up to day 10. This is Saturday the 15th of August, and well, we've got that ridging nicely across Scandinavia, but these areas of low pressure are increasingly coming in from the Atlantic, turning it more unsettled with time, and that does look a pretty unsettled chart actually by the time we go through to Sunday the 16th. So I think it's a complicated pattern, but I think we probably have quite a lot of dry weather through most of next week. But as we get through to the last stages of next week, it probably turns increasingly unsettled. I'm not convinced about that thundery risk from the southeast, but I think probably it turns more unsettled, if anything, from the Atlantic as we go through to the middle part of August. That's GFS, ECMDF finally, and the ridge is in the south and the east to start next week, with the low pressure up to the north and the west. We build the ridge through across the country up to the middle part of next week, although the temperature contour colours here do look as though may bring some sort of shallow trough into the north. But I think overall the ridge is building through into the middle part of next week. That stays with us into Thursday. A lot of dry and fine weather. There's that little thundery low again. It's in a slightly different position, and it's on Friday this time. But maybe the chance of something thundery or some heavy rain coming into the south and southeast at the end of next week. We do need to watch out for it. I'm not all that convinced by it, but as it's there with both the GFS and the ECO in slightly different forms, we do need to watch out for that into the second half of next week. And then it turns more definitively unsettled over the weekend of the 15th, 16th of August, with seemingly the high pressure over Scandinavia being pushed back and these low pressures becoming more influential off the Atlantic. So the overall idea is for a lot of dry weather through the first and middle parts of next week, probably turning increasingly warm. We may get some sort of a thundery spell down in the south-southeast. I'm not convinced by it, but it may happen. But then probably turning more definitively unsettled from the Atlantic as we go through into the middle part of the month. Whether that then takes us into a much more unsettled and cooler second half to August, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I think quite a lot of nice weather coming up next week until late on, when things could well start to deteriorate. We're doing the month ahead with the JMA model tomorrow, and that will take us into the start of September, the start of autumn. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.